The following podcast is brought to you by Pro Wrestling Connect, Australia's newest choice for event management and brand development specialising in pro wrestling.
And now, the B Plus Wrestling Podcast. Watch global. Support local. It's the B Plus Wrestling Podcast.
The moves.
B plus.
Check it out! Here we go! You wanna mess with us? 'Cause we're steady on the ground.
Alright, ladies, gents, and non-binary friends, welcome to the B Plus Podcast. I'm your host, Greg Unchained. Today is Friday. You know what that means. It's Aussie Grapps Day. It's our favourite day here at the B Plus Podcast. It's the day we sit down to talk about all things Australian professional wrestling. We also like to sit down and speak to an Aussie grappler or grappler adjacent person. This week, I had the chance to catch up with Adam Hoffman, one of the head men in charge, of course, of Newcastle Pro Wrestling, tag team specialist as a member of the Nations, and just an all-round fantastic worker. I had a chance to talk to him about the OVO play deal, about the formations of Newcastle Pro Wrestling, but you'll hear that shortly. First, let's take a look at what's happening this week in Aussie Grapps news. Now, as you'll know, long-time listeners of the show will know that I try to cover as much as I can in the news segments, but feedback I got very early in the podcast was that I was going too long. So what I try to do is I try to pick out just the major stories that I really want us to focus on. So starting with Aussies overseas at the moment, just this week on MLW TV, which is accessible on YouTube, Adam Brooks made his Major League Wrestling debut. He came out in a match against Austin Aries. Fantastic match, well worth having a look at. He was announced as being from Melbourne, which was interesting. The commentators did talk about him being from Dingley, and they went off onto tangents, asking what a ledge is. Is that an Australian thing, like a dingo ate me baby? And the winner of this match gets a Vegemite sandwich. Other very bad Aussie colloquialisms that no one uses and has ever used. So I don't know. It was odd, and the commentary was a little bit annoying. But it was a good match. Ultimately, Adam Brooks took the L, but he looked great in doing so. You got to think MLW are going to want to bring him back. Also, looking overseas, Jett Rouka, our very own Jett Rouka here there in Melbourne, has announced that he is headed on a jet, presumably, to go to the United States of America in September, North America as well. He's in Canada for a while as well. And he's asked people to tag promotions on Twitter for him. So go to Jett Rouka's Twitter. It's just at Jett Rouka. And his pinned tweet there is his announcement of his American tour. So he's in Toronto, September 13 to 16, Vancouver, September 20 to 22, New Orleans, 16 to 20, and Los Angeles, 23 to 29. I would have ordered these differently. I read that wrong. I apologize. Anyway, so his email is bookjetrouka@gmail.com. But Jett Rouka at JETTROUKA. Check out that pinned tweet. Tag the promotions. If you know any promotions in the area who have shows in that time, tag them, let them know, and we want Jett to get as many bookings as he can while he's over there. So best of luck to Jett Rouka heading off to the United States for the first time. Looking locally, though, as I look at my news here, I actually just realized that I have a lot of game changer news in here. You can tell who I'm a fan of. I should probably try to work on this. It feels like a bit of a bias now that I look at the notes when I'm like, oh, I'll pick out the top stories that look like the top stories to me. And I've got all game changers here. But Nick Berry made his debut for New Japan Pro Wrestling in Melbourne this week. He was also on the Turnbuckle. If you want to hear him talk about it, he goes into detail about how it came about, because he was not originally booked on the show. He found out with just less than 24 hours notice that he was going to be booked on the show in the opening match. The pop when he came through the curtain was fucking insane. I was so happy for that. It made me very happy watching that on Fight TV to see that the crowd were that excited for Nick Berry. Made him look like an absolute star. In Sydney, the Philippes and Jack Bonza and Mick Moretti all had matches, of course. We also had Robbie Eagles challenging for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title. He came so close, but he didn't quite make it. And then he joined Chaos. He left the Bullet Club behind. He joined Chaos. We'd been theorizing about it for months here on the podcast, whether he would do that. Oh, for months, since the Best of the Super Juniors tournament anyway, across King of Sports cast and the Aussie Grapps cast, we'd been theorizing that he would join Chaos, and he did it in his hometown in Sydney. Very excited for Robbie Eagles. Very excited for Nick Berry. Fantastic weekend of New Japan shows. Check them out. They should be up on New Japan World by now. I haven't checked. I watched the pay-per-view on Fight, but You can probably get these shows available on New Japan World by now. Sticking with the game changers, of course, in Melbourne, Lochy Hendricks, Loverboy. Lochy Hendricks cut an absolute fire promo this week, comparing himself to CM Punk, because 8 years ago, Punk claimed he was going to win a title and leave the company he was in with the title, and now Loverboy Lochy Hendricks is doing the same thing, but the difference is that title mattered and this one doesn't, probably because it's a rinky-dink Australian title. He unloads on MCW for holding him down, for holding his friends, the Brat Pack, down. I mean, they're 3-time champs, 3 slits, 3 times. I don't know if they've been held down necessarily, but, Lochy Hendricks has been a central part of the show. I don't know if he's been held down necessarily, but he feels that he's been wronged by MCW, and this promo just lays it all out on the line in a sort of a pipe bomb, unsanctioned kind of manner. It's a very entertaining promo. People need to check it out. I will drop a link in the show notes. The game changer from Sydney, Matty Wahlberg, a new promo for Survivor, focusing on the Contenders team, came out this week, and features Matty Wahlberg heavily. Champions, eh? Champions, eh? He's screaming at the top of his lungs. But right before they showed him saying that, the voiceover says, this year the Contenders' bite is way worse than their bark. And then he's going, champions, eh? Champions, eh? So it's like implying that he's going to do really well because he's barking pretty fucking loud. We all know Matty Wahlberg. We know how much he can bark, but they're saying that the bite's worse than the bark from the Contenders this year. So it's looking good for Matty Wahlberg on Survivor. I have not watched Survivor in many, many years. A good friend of mine is giving me shit because I'm very excited about watching this season of Survivor, but I'm watching it purely for Matty Wahlberg. I'm very excited. I will be reporting on it weekly, probably here on the podcast, but definitely looking forward to it. There was also a bloke on the team, on the Contenders team, this bloke with a glorious mullet. I sincerely hope that Matty Wahlberg has befriended this lad and convinces him to join PWA, because I want this guy to join PWA, come in with Matty, and then betray him. Come in as a survivor, be a tag team for a hot minute, right? Don't leave the baby, still be a babe, but also be a survivor, right? And have the survivor, and then have him betray him and go join the black shirt cool group. This guy, this mullet in the black shirt cool group, mint. I'm looking for. I want that, man. That's my fantasy booking. PWA, if you're listening, get this mullet bloke in for an angle, because it's fucking hot. It's an amazing mullet. Moving forward, Jessica Troy and Kellyanne, tearing things up across the country. They've had one of my match of the year candidates this year for Australia at Wrestling Go, and now it looks like they're set to do it again up in Queensland for AWA Homecoming 6. Definitely looking forward to that one. People get around AWA, obviously Queensland. We talk about Queensland a lot. It has a reputation. But they're overcoming that reputation with places like AWA, with places like Pro Wrestling League. Definitely worth checking out up there. Jessica Troy vs. Kellyanne coming up soon. Sticking to news in the women's division of Australia, Steph DeLander closed out Pride Month by coming out as bisexual. Congratulations, Steph DeLander, on being able to disclose this information, or choosing to disclose this information. It's it's not something anyone needs to know. It's not something that affects the wrestling at all. But I know from my own personal coming out as polyamorous that it's very freeing to just have that out there, to just be like, yeah, this is a thing. This is a thing that I am, and this is a thing that exists. Because I know there's a lot of bisexual erasure out there, and so to have a strong woman icon come out and say, yeah, I'm bisexual, and like I guess I'm gonna let you all know, because that was kind of the manner in which it was done. I don't have the tweet in front of me, but it was just kind of like, I guess I'm going to let you all know, like, yeah, I'm bisexual. It's not a big deal. She didn't treat it like it was a big deal. It wasn't some big hurrah. I'm probably making more of a big hurrah of it than she did. I just think it's fantastic, and hats off to Steph DeLander. Get it, girl. Last piece of news I want to talk about was actually the first piece of news I had in my notes, because it was the first thing I saw this week. I think it came out like right after I recorded the podcast last week, but we all know the SPW and MCW joint show, the Southern Rumble, is coming up in Invercargill next weekend. Hooligan vs. Slex has been signed. So, the Hooligan Marcus Cool, the SPW champion, taking on Slex, the MCW champion, and it's going to be a winner takes all match. Now, I don't know if this means that the winner is going to have the 2 titles and be defending across the two islands, or if they're going to merge the titles. Maybe we're going to see more MCW and SPW, interlocking. I would like to see that, but either way, winner takes all. We're going to have an Australian and New Zealand champion crowned at the Southern Rumble between the Hooligan Marcus Cool and the business Slex. I want to say you got to pull for Slex, right? Because MCW feels like it's the bigger company. Also, I'm Australian, national pride. I got to pull for Slex. But I'm a big fan of the Hooligan Marcus Cool. So I think it'd be really cool to see the Hooligan more in MCW. And if he was just to walk in one day with that big shiny new belt, that would be fantastic. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that one plays out on my SPW On Demand service. But that does it for the news this week. Now let's get to the interview that I did earlier this week with Adam Hoffman, and then after the interview, I will hit you up with what is happening this weekend near you.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
This month, we are sponsored by Grapple, a fantastic new wrestling app available on iOS and Google Play, completely for free, where you can rate all the matches that you watch in WWE, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all across the world, and we are even getting Australian wrestling involved in the Grapple app rating system as well, starting with PWA Pro Wrestling Australia. Their Green Label event from the other week is up there. The Black Label event, All Eyes on Troy, is up there. And the last 2 years of events, at least, are up on Grapple right now for you to rate so that people can get around our Aussie wrestling and see that we are just as good as anywhere else in the world. Basically, Grapple is a Rotten Tomatoes for wrestling. Now we all get a say. It is the democratization of match rating systems for pro wrestling. It's amazing. So I get a say, you get a say. You can follow me on there at Greg Unchained. You can follow Big Boy Mikey at B+_Big Boy. At Mr. Mysterious is on there. At Danders is on there. At Jay is on there. We're all on there rating the matches that we watch. So follow us. We'll follow you back. Let's build this community and get as many Australian wrestling fans onto the Grapple app as we can. You can download it right now. It has over 30,000 matches on there going back to 1985, 15 promotions around the world. There's so much to do on the Grapple app. It's a great little community, so get around it. It's Grapple, GRAPPL.co, and it's for free on App Store and Google Play. Get around it. Hey everyone, just want to take a second to tell you about one of our new sponsors, Outbreak Nutrition. Outbreak Nutrition are creating supplements for survival, sharper minds, quicker reflexes, all the energy you need to take your performance to the next level, whether that be on the field, in the gym, on the gaming field. That's right, they have specifically designed gaming supplements as well to help you focus on those late night sessions. They even sell coffee, you guys, at Outbreak Nutrition. You can get coffee pods, you can get coffee beans, you can get supplements for the bedroom as well if you want to enhance your performance there. These are performance enhancing supplements for every aspect of your life, specifically designed by gamers, for gamers, to stay fit and healthy in the gym, to stay sharp and focused on the game, and to dominate in all areas of life. So check out outbreaknutrition.com, and for being a listener of our podcast, they will give you 10% off your order when you enter the code B+. That is BPLUS at checkout. So make sure, if you want to stay on top of your game, if you want to take your performance to the next level, outbreaknutrition.com, enter the code B+ at checkout. Hey guys, just a reminder, if you want to hear all of these wonderful B+ podcast episodes completely ad-free, make sure you head over to Patreon or Podbean, where we are the featured podcast this week. You can subscribe for as little as $1 a month up to $10 a month, where anything you want to help us with, it really helps out. It's going to help us grow the site. It's going to help us redesign some things, and everything that we get through this and through the advertising as well is all going straight back into the podcast so that we can get Aussie Grapps out there for the rest of the world to hear about, for the rest of the world to see, so we can grow this mission of watch global, support local, and build indie wrestling. So if you want to be a part of that and get some really cool rewards like call-in shows, bonus episodes, ad-free like I mentioned, then head over to patreon.com/theb+ and subscribe today. Before we get to the interview, before we get there, one more piece of news that has just broken. Orange fucking Cassidy is coming to PWA for Colosseum. I am so excited. I have not been this excited about anything in a very, very long time. I popped so hard that my kids came running from the other room to check that I was okay. Orange Cassidy. Check out the video on Twitter. The show notes for the show are already done, so I can't add that in. But, I mean, I could, but it would be a lot of work at this very late hour. It's not that late. I'm going to put it in the show notes. There's a video in the show notes. Go check out the video for the PWA's first announcement. When I saw it, man, so the PWA Colosseum tournament was for the best wrestlers, the best pure grapplers around Australia. is how it was marketed last year. This time around, they've said from Australia and the world. So when I saw that in the tweet, before I clicked play on the video, when I saw that in the tweet, I thought, okay, Will Ospreay's coming, right? Like, that's what's going to happen. We're going to get Will Ospreay in Colosseum. That's awesome. I was so keen. And then when it came up, freshly squeezed, Orange Cassidy, I could not be more excited for Colosseum. I've booked my flights. I don't care where you are in Australia. I don't care where you are in the world. Colosseum is our super strong style. Colosseum is our bowler. Colosseum is our big destination show wherever you are. It is time to look at flights for the middle of October. October 18 and 19. WWE are in town 2 days later, so extend your stay a little. Come to the WWE show with us all as well. Holy shit, man, October is going to be an amazing month. I'm looking forward to seeing you all at Colosseum. And now let's go listen to the interview with Adam Hoffman, a man who hopes to be in Colosseum, but you'll hear that. All right, joining me now by the magic of the internet all the way from Newcastle. He is the leader of the Blue Nation, the head trainer of the Nui Pro Hoos of Free Fighting, and also the man with, for my money, the best spine buster in Australian professional wrestling. Adam Hoffman, how you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm well. I'm getting over like a cough thing that's been happening the last few days. I have no idea where it came from. I mean, probably the weather, but other than that, I'm well.
Well, good. Good to hear.
Yeah. So I want to talk to you about specifically. I want to talk about like the OVO play deal and stuff coming up because obviously that's huge for Newcastle Pro Wrestling. But before I do that, I figure we should start at the beginning, like we tend to do when we talk to people for the first time, and talk about what got you into wrestling. What was your first memory of professional wrestling?
My first memory was Ric Flair.
Right.
I can't remember exactly what was happening. All I can really remember is the big flashy coat and the entrance and the spectacle that was Ric Flair.
Yeah. Was it like a match or something? Like, did he end up with the blood in the blonde hair and stuff? And it's like the visuals that stuck with you, or was it mostly the flashiness of the entry and sort of how he carried himself?
It was definitely the entrance and how he carried himself and the whole larger than life character that he was. Is bloody rookies.
So you're at the Hoos right now, so there's noise happening in the background. Yeah, so
I'm usually here every day.
Yeah, amazing. We'll get to that. We'll definitely get to that. So Ric Flair, it's hard not to appreciate that robe, right?
Absolutely.
It's fucking glorious.
I was like maybe 5 or 6. So as a 5 or 6 year old, seeing something so ridiculously over the top was definitely catch your imagination.
Yeah, so been a fan since then, lifelong fan. As
Absolutely.
Most wrestlers are, yeah. So it's kind of not a surprise there that you're a lifelong fan. But when did you decide, so you've been watching since you're 5 years old, when did you decide, I want to throw myself hard at the ground and try to make a living out of that? When did that become, like when did you go to training? Where did you go to training? What's the story of the origins, I suppose?
Okay, well, yeah, like I said, I watched it as a kid, but then I fell out of it. It's not easy to come by when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I'm a bit older than most people. The internet wasn't around. Yeah. It wasn't on TV until I was about a teenager when Superstars was on. So you had to wait up to 11 o'clock at night to watch the recap highlights of what was happening in WWF at the time.
Yes.
And I used to watch that during high school, and that's when I got back into it, and me and my mates used to muck around like most teenagers do. And then one day, one of my mates turned up to school with a phone number that he found on the internet for a training school in Sydney. So
nice.
So I got my cash and off I went.
Yeah, so I remember those days well, the Superstar days. I've told the story on the podcast a few times of having to sneak into my sister's room with the VHS to record them because it was very late at night. And so you'd just let the VHS record and then you'd wake up in the morning, you'd fast forward through it. Did you get into the tape trading at all? I know there are some people in Australia that got into the tape trading. I never did.
No, because by the time I hit peak fandom, it was on Foxtel. So
right. Yeah.
We'd watch it on Foxtel. We used to go to Video Easy and Blockbuster when they were a thing and hire the old tapes and watch them that way. So we used to watch the backlog.
Yeah. That was where I discovered ECW. It was at a local Civic Video, I think.
Video stills.
yeah. I think if I tried to explain the concept of a video to my kid, like, it would just blow their mind. Like, they have no idea how easy it is now with Netflix and stuff, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But
Absolutely.
so the training school that you found the number for, what training school was that? Who trained you? Where did you go to learn the craft?
That was the AWF school. So it was run by Greg Bounds.
Mm-hmm.
So I trained there for 5 years, 5 and a bit maybe.
Yeah, many people's first exposure. Yeah.
Well, absolutely. Like most of the Newey Pro and PWA veterans, I guess you'd call us, all pretty much started at AWF and then ventured out from there.
Yeah. Yeah. And in AWF, you guys had some characters, right? Like one of your good friends there was Bluey Bonza. And you had the Dr. Waxhead character. Can you tell us about Dr. Waxhead?
Well, there was a no-show at a show, and I guess I was the next in line to get pushed onto shows. So I got to fill that spot, but I didn't have a gimmick ready to go. I didn't have a name. Because at this point, I was only 2 months into training.
Okay.
I picked it up very quickly. And not saying that I was ready to go, but I was the closest to ready to go. So they chucked me in the ring and they had to come up with a name, and I had long blonde hair, or like I was a surfer, so they'd try to go with a surfer gimmick.
Right.
And then someone threw that name out, and I was like, that's trash, you can't use that. But next thing.
Do you remember who it was? Who threw the name out? Bury him. Do it.
Oh, fucking JT Robinson. He's fucking very proud of it too. He'll tell you.
He still thinks it's a money gimmick, doesn't he?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. He would give it to someone else if they would take it.
That's amazing. You see him trying to pitch Jackson Kelly on it.
Yep.
You're a doctor of surfing.
Yeah.
That's great.
No, it was stupid. It was stupid as shit.
How do you go about developing character, right? Like, because you've obviously shifted a lot since the surfer days. How do you go about developing your character? What's have you found a method that works for you?
No. I kind of just be myself. I tried to lean into the surfer thing a bit because I was a surfer and I was part of the surf life, like the surf club at that time. So I tried to lean into that side. So I ditched the board shorts and got my red and yellows out and ran with that for a little bit.
Nice.
And then I just, slowly transitioned. Like I said, Ric Flair was what caught my eye, and it was the showmanship. It was the big flashy thing. And then Shawn Michaels was my favorite, still is my favorite. And again, flashy, over the top. So that led into the bright colors and the tassels and that side of myself.
Right, so that's where the tassel use came from. It's from the love of the flashiness, like Ultimate Warrior, like all that sort of stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love it. And so, and you guys, how did the Nations come about? Because did you guys start the Nations in AWF, or was that later?
Oh, God, no. No, we were well out of AWF by then.
Okay.
We were in PWA.
Right.
So, myself and Tama, that's how it started originally, was management had nothing for us. Like, they were open to suggestions. And then one day Tama just came up and said, I reckon we should tag. So I was like, that's a good idea. So we took it to management and said, like, can you put us together, chuck us in the team? So they did that. So me and Tama were tagging together. We were doing well. And at the same time, the Neo Sovereign Revolution was getting more members and they wanted a group to go against them. So they took the other two, like, decent names that would also had nothing majorly happening at the time, which was Jack and Chaz.
Yeah.
So we all banded together and became the Nations.
Amazing. And what was the idea behind the Nations? Is it just because it seems kind of like a loose collection. Like, you guys do your own thing. You're still, like, obviously fantastic. You're tag team specialists, but it doesn't seem like as coherent a stable as maybe people would expect from a stable.
No, that was kind of the point. Like, all four of us were completely different, so there was no point in trying to find a common ground. So we went the opposite way. We just said we're four different nations in one team.
Right.
That's where the nations came from. Is like Raider Nation and how fan groups and things like that call themselves.
Right.
Nations. You understand?
So like the four individual nations working together for the common good when it's needed, kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Or the common bad.
Always... yeah. Which was most of
Which was most of the time, yeah. Because I remember seeing you guys. So I was my first experience to what I recall as like good Australian wrestling. Like when I first went to a show and was like, oh wow, Australian wrestling can be really, really good, was a PWA show. I want to say it was at the Cube or somewhere in Campbelltown. Yeah. And it was an amazing show. And you guys were doing the tag thing and doing the lucha rules, and like everything you were doing was double team moves. And that was like specifically you guys, all of the Four Nations guys were, and I think it was Mick was in the team at that point as well. And that was kind of the part where I was like, wow, Australian wrestling can be really good.
Well, absolutely. PWA started the lucha rule tag like trend, but no other teams were using it. So me and Tama used to play it up a lot, use it as much as possible. And then that transferred once Jack and Shaz and then eventually Mick joined the team. We're definitely going to lose that, because that's what made us stand out, was our cohesion and the fact that we could use the rules to our advantage. And like I said, no one else was doing it. It was so obvious. It was like, we weren't there.
It was very unique, and that's something I've heard Jack talk about on a lot of podcasts. Is like, if you have access to something unique, fucking use it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So were you there with the like at the very beginning of PWA?
No, I came in maybe 2 years. They just celebrated 10 years. Was it last year or the year before? And yeah. I've been there 10 years now, this year.
Okay. So you were a couple of years behind. So you weren't there for the formation and stuff. But you were there for the formation of Newcastle Pro Wrestling.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so how did all of that come about? How did because obviously PWA and Nui Pro are quite linked as well.
Yeah, well, it's a long story, so it depends on how long you've got.
Oh, let's do it, man.
But
let's do it.
Well, what was happening, I was helping with getting talent for a promotion called Showtime Wrestling, which was in Newcastle. Which actually, like, Carlo Cannon actually got me into this promotion, which still confuses me to this day. Is they were running shows at Hamilton, and I lived walking distance to Hamilton, and they had been apparently running for 2 years, and I'd never heard of them.
And you were a wrestler at the time.
I was a wrestler for a while at that point too, and at that point I had a name, so people knew who I was, and they knew I was from Newcastle. But somehow, no one got in touch with me until Carlo said to them, this guy lives here. So then they brought me. So he brought me in. I had a match, and then they loved my work, so they kept booking me. And then there was a big falling out between the two owners, and then there was a big split. So half the roster left and half the roster was left, so they had a huge gap to fill. And luckily, I know pretty much everyone, so I brought in as many guys as I could get, filled the roster out with the best talent I could find, and then kept that promotion going until there was again another big disagreement. And then I was like, well, I don't have to put up with this shit. I've been doing this a long enough time, so we just decided that we can start running our own shows. So that's what we did.
And so that's when Newcastle Pro Wrestling came about. I feel like that happens a lot in wrestling. There's lots of disagreements and then splinter groups forming off other groups. And what leads to that kind of thing?
Usually people who aren't from the wrestling business getting into wrestling business and then arguing with people who are and know more, or know better.
Right.
So I've had the owner of SWA since then come to me and go, I'm sorry, you were right. I should have listened to you. And I was like, yeah, well, kind of worked out better for me because Newcastle's thriving. and through Newcastle thriving and PWA thriving, working together, we're killing it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're a fan of the instead of the angel investor coming in with the money and trying to do it, you think, by the boys for the boys. That's boys and girls, but that's how wrestling should operate.
If a money mark came in to throw money around, like, I'm not going to be mad at that, but they've got to have an understanding of like how things work and how things run and what's gonna work, what's gonna draw in people, what's gonna make the most money eventually. Like that's what you want. And if they can't see that, then it's not really gonna work.
Yeah. See, I've said a bunch of times, like when those big $50-70 million lotto things come around, I've always said, like, if I win, I'm just going to throw $10 million to the PWA and Nui Pro and just be like, you guys do with it what you want, but just make sure I'm allowed to come to all shows for free forever.
We'll you a box seat.
Because you gotta trust the people who know what they're doing and like come in and learn. Like you can't walk in and just expect to know everything just from being a fan, right? Like I've seen lots of fans try to run things and it becomes a disaster.
Yeah, you can't always give fans what they want, because what they want isn't necessarily what's going to make the money or tell the best story or put on the best show. Sometimes you got to disappoint the fan so they want to come back and not be disappointed.
Right. And so
you can't make them happy all the time. You got to make them mad. You got to make them sad. You got to hit all the emotions. Can't just hit happy.
Right. And so is the story? So does story comes first then in your philosophy?
Absolutely. Always.
Yeah.
Always. If it's always the same, then it's boring. You can't have it the same. Variety is the spice of life, and variety what keeps things exciting. If you're doing the same shit, eventually they're going to get sick of it.
Absolutely. And that's what sets PWA apart, and that whole everything you guys are like. Nui Pro I don't get across as much because it hasn't been as accessible, but every Nui Pro thing I've seen has been great, and like obviously the houses you guys do, you guys are doing well, and everything I see from people who attend, they're like they're telling the best stories, and so I'm really excited about the stuff that's on the horizon because I'm a big story guy. Like that's why I like wrestling. I like wrestling for the stories, so I love that philosophy.
Well, absolutely. That's the perk of running month to month is you can tell long stories and people can show up every month and follow them and they get invested in it and it makes things exciting. But then we also have smaller stories that people who come occasionally can still follow. And when you come to a show, you're not going to be confused because you weren't here the show before. So we try and keep it catered for everyone, the long-term fans and then the casual fan that's going to come to every second or third show. It should be a good environment for everyone.
Absolutely. And how long-term do you guys book things out? Because obviously, especially at the moment with the way Australian wrestling is booming and a lot of our guys are going overseas and doing this and doing that, does that affect the long-term booking? How long can you plan in advance, generally speaking?
It gets planned out pretty well in advance, but very rarely do those plans ever go to plan. So often someone will go overseas, or like Robbie gets signed, so he's just gone now.
Yeah.
He'll be back sporadically, so it's hard to, like, if we had a long-term plan for Robbie, it's like, well, that's out the window now. We've had plans like in motion and then injuries get in the way, or again, like people going overseas is the biggest thing at the moment because their talent's so good and people are starting to notice that people are getting bookings overseas, which I'm not going to stand in anybody's way from going and getting more exposure, because the more exposure they get, then eventually they're going to start looking at where they came from, which is going to, again, make money for all of us.
Yeah, it's good for the business. And so just quickly, while we're talking about bookings overseas, Chikara, King of Trios.
Absolutely.
Holy crap.
Can't wait.
Yeah, man. Well, like the last one was amazing. You guys did so well. I'm really looking forward to the next one. But what can you tell us about working with Chikara? Because I know Mike Quackenbush has come over and worked with PWA a lot and stuff as well. So, I mean, dream come true, I assume.
He did a whole week seminar here as well, which is great.
Yeah.
So it's so much fun not to have to tell people what to do. I just get to get in line and learn some things. You can always learn new things, and he's a genius. Like, he's just, the way he thinks about wrestling is next level.
Yeah.
So working for Chikara and seeing how they played out, not just the tournament, but planting seeds just for their regular shows and continuing their stories on, but still integrating the tournament and then guys who are coming in and probably aren't going to be there again. It was good to see. It was eye-opening. Love learning new things.
Yeah, man. I live by the philosophy, man, if you're not learning, you're dying.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
And if you're not doing, you're dying. So learn and do constantly. So I'm on board with that. And then so you touched on he obviously came to the Hoos and was training at the Hoos there. When did the Hoos come about? So you guys had been doing Nui Pro for a while before the school actually opened, yeah?
No, the school was around first.
Oh, okay. Well, see, I got my timeline wrong then. So the school was first.
Yeah, the school started back when I was helping out with SWA because, again, like, long story, I'll cut it real short, but they wanted a school because grassroots, you need base levels for any promotion to grow. You need a next generation coming through because,
of course, yeah,
no one lasts forever. And at this rate, with people getting signed and getting bookings elsewhere, you need that next level of athletes coming through. So they wanted a school to feed wrestlers in, and they had Jason Helton to teach the school. And I was like, yeah, I'll come along and I'll assist. And by like half an hour into the session, I had to take over, and I ended up pretty much teaching the class. And then eventually it just became my class. So then we were teaching the school every week. So then I was being a smart ass, because if people haven't noticed, House of Free Fighting is HOFF, so it's Hoff.
Yeah, nice.
So it was just me being a smart ass, because when I was in Mexico, they had a place called Casa de Lucha Libre, which translates to House of Free Fighting.
Yeah.
Home of free fighting. So I was like, that's fantastic.
I like
so
it.
I stole that. That was just the nickname for the school, because it was technically called the Showtime Wrestling Academy, but I used to call it the House of Free Fighting. So that was in 2009, so 10 years this year.
Amazing. And it's going well. And now the Hoos Party shows pretty big. Yeah.
Absolutely.
When did you decide to do those? Those came about a while ago, like pretty recently.
Yeah, it was probably a year and a half ago, maybe. Yeah.
And the show names are fucking incredible.
Yeah, that's a new thing. But it started again because we had that next crop of athletes coming through, and we needed somewhere for them to perform. Otherwise, they were just training with there was no light at the end of the tunnel for them, because getting onto the Nui Pro or PWA rosters, that's a tough gig.
It's competitive.
Absolutely. And with the Pro Wrestling Academy in Sydney, like feeding guys in as well, like it's cutthroat. You need to be on top of your game, otherwise you're just not gonna get that chance. So I decided that having smaller little shows here would give them experience in front of a crowd, and then we can actually see what they got and what they need to do to be better. And the plan was just to keep these shows small and get the guys good enough that we could debut them in front of the main roster, like in front of the main audience. But then these shows started getting popular, so now actually getting onto a Hoos show is a big thing.
Yeah.
Like we sold out the last Hoos show. It was packed. I actually had to send someone to Bunnings to go buy more chairs.
That's a good problem to have.
That's the best problem to have.
Yeah. So, do you think you guys would be looking at it moving to bigger venues, bigger training spaces? Even how are the classes going? Like, are they increasing as well as you move along?
Absolutely. We're actually moving to a new venue next week.
Well, there you go.
We're calling it the Tooth.
The Tooth.
Picked up the keys today. We move in next week, so we'll start setting up, and then the mosh pit, the next full Hoos will be the first show at the new venue.
Right. Yeah. So full Hoos, Better Hoos and Gardens was one that cracked me up. Some of these Hooses by Daryl Braithwaite was one.
Yeah. Yeah, that one had me worried. I was like, geez, I hope Daryl Braithwaite's people don't see this and like try and sue me or something.
So who comes up with the names? Is that all you?
They did a fan poll,
Right.
and if we picked your name, then you won free tickets.
Nice.
So we had some fans come through, and then there's a bunch there's a good group of guys here, and they're all funny as fuck. So they're always spouting out stupid names.
Right. And with the training philosophy there, I mean, I see stuff. So, like I said, you guys don't have as much footage out there in the wild as like a PWA do. And I see a lot of their stuff, and it really feels like a family, but a very competitive family. Is the Who's the same?
Absolutely. Like, all these boys hang out together when training's not on. Like when I got into the Who's today, 3 of them were huddled up on a lounge with a blanket over them, watching wrestling on their phone. They're a close bunch. They're a good group of kids.
That's good.
Like I said, funny as well.
Yeah,
athletic as well.
And that translates to like when it comes time to put on matches. I mean, obviously wrestling's about trust, right? You got to trust the people you're in there with. So it's good that you're fostering that kind of environment.
Well, absolutely. First thing we go over at training is safety, and if you pick someone up, it's your job to put them down without hurting them. You got to keep everyone safe. So if you can't guarantee that they're going to come down safely, you don't pick them up.
Yeah,
simple as that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, so on the footage situation that I've talked about a couple of times, so you guys did have the Nui Pro play alongside PWA play for a while, but it wasn't every show sort of thing. But now you guys are moving over to OVO play with the new deal. Yeah. How did the OVO play thing come about? And can we expect to see a lot more accessible Nui Pro content?
Absolutely. PWA and Nui Pro were a bundle deal. It was just PWA were the test ones, and now we're moving to this weekend at Central Coast, and then either the next Charlestown show or the Rumble after that will be live streamed.
Nice. I'm really looking forward to it. Like I'm looking forward to sitting on the couch this weekend and watching it live, for the first time ever. Did it with PWA. What was the atmosphere like backstage going live for the first time? Was it intense?
For me, it was fine because I didn't have to do anything. All the tech guys there, they were running around pulling their hair out, getting ready, because especially like a lot of them, this was their first time. There were technicians there to teach them and walk everyone through it all. But some of the camera crew had obviously filmed wrestling before, but never live.
Yeah,
because previously you've had the luxury of editing. So if something goes wrong, you can just switch camera angle, edit out. But when you're live, you got to be on your game.
Yeah. So if you're live and a cameraman falls over, it gets caught no matter what. It doesn't.
Absolutely.
Which thankfully that hasn't happened.
Everybody got a good warning before the show, though. If you kick over a fucking cable, just walk out the building and don't come back. If you fuck up the live feed.
So there was a tension. But more of an excitement, probably, I assume.
Yeah, I think, well, management was stressing because it's a shit ton of money that they spent on all the live streaming gear and all the cameras and the cabling and the transmitters and all that stuff. So
yeah.
Whoever the first person is that fucks it, I do not want to be that person.
Going back before the live era, I got a couple of questions about the actual shows and stuff. Going back before the live era, you got played a little bit. You're not much of a social media guy, so I can't really ask you about coming back and checking the live tweets and stuff. But
I don't know.
Because you're not on social media, the guys decided to rib you a little and sort of raised some money and put a song on for you as you came out. Bloober Dubba Dee Dubba, whatever it is.
Yeah, I hate that fucking song.
Now, you looked pretty pissed. Was that shoot? Like, were you...
Absolutely.
Completely in the dark?
We used to play those ribs, like, all the time. But I just thought we were past that because production had gotten so much bigger. Like, when you're doing it in front of 60 people, no one gives a shit, and no one's really recording it.
Yeah.
You can get away with that. But when you're actually in front of like a packed fucking house with like how professional the shows are run now.
Sold out, signs from the rafters, fucking everything.
Absolutely. And the place is going nuts. And then to have someone change my music, my first thought was, who the fuck's got big enough balls to do this? Because I've got a bit of a temper. I'm well aware of it. So yeah, I was at first, really pissed, wondering who the fuck had the balls to do that. And referees and announcers were kind of not helping the situation.
Because as the fans who attended the show or were watching the show, like, we were all in on the joke because we're all on social media.
Yeah, I heard afterwards.
And so once it was explained to you that it was all for a good cause, water under the bridge, or can we expect some payback?
Oh, you never know what's going to happen.
All right, good stuff. I also wanted to ask you. You've been working a program lately with Matt Rogers. How hard is it to hit the best spinebuster in Australia on such a large individual?
In the right position, I can hit it on pretty much anyone, but getting him in the right position is fucking very hard. Big boy.
Big boy, yeah.
Normally punches that'll knock people down kind of just fucking stumble him. It's like, what is your head made of?
Yeah. So that was a question. That was a question from our Patreon subscriber Chapo. He wanted to know, because he's a big fan of Adam Hoffman and the Spinebuster, and he wanted to know how you were even able to do that with someone the size of Matt Rogers. So have you hit it on someone bigger than Matt Rogers? Is he probably the biggest individual that you've?
Well, what's he? 120. I can't remember if I hit Tama with it recently. Because Tama's 130.
Right.
I'm not sure if I hit it on him, but yeah, he probably. If there's anyone bigger, I'm not thinking of it.
Probably the biggest then.
There was a guy in my early years. We used to call him unleaded because he looked like a fucking poor man's Diesel. But he was like 6'5", and he would have been 110, 115, and I hit it on him.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you're that tall, it kind of, if I get in the right position, the leverage is actually quite easy. Right. Because my shoulder goes, because I'm a bit, obviously, shorter, I don't have to bend down too far to hit you right in that sweet spot that bends you over.
Yeah, yeah.
So, big boy Rogers, when he came in, all I had to do was, get my shoulder in that, just above the hips where he folds. But I didn't get his legs, and that's why I didn't hit it so cleanly.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I also wanted to ask you, this is something that I asked you about at the merch table when I came up for Fridays Are for the Babes last year.
Yep.
I'm a big fan of your shirt design, the one you've got out at the moment with it's sort of the bikey inspired design, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. It does have a 1% patch on it though.
Now,
are you aware that can get people stabbed?
Yeah. Possibly. Like, you'd have to find a bikie that's in a pretty bad mood to hit, like, stab someone who's wearing a shirt. If it was on a jacket, then you're definitely in trouble.
Yeah. If it was like an actual patch sewed on to something.
If it's an actual patch, then you're in trouble. You can see that it's a printed T-shirt. Like, it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, my uncle's a biker, so I know what the patches mean to him.
Right.
I'm not intentionally trying to get someone stabbed.
No, because I've got I know some bikers down here, and like Adelaide is kind of biker central, right? And if you have so much as it, people get in trouble, like when Sons of Anarchy was a thing.
Yep.
Like if you're wearing anything with a bottom rocker or that diamond patch, like you can get in trouble walking down Hindley Street, So, So I wanted to buy the shirt, but I couldn't. So I wanted to know if you were aware, because
No, I've got a new run coming, and I'll have that one changed. Like I'm going to Shikara again, which I didn't have all the patches on.
Yeah.
When I went over last year, so now that I've got more patches on, I'm gonna have to change a few of them just so I can get through the airport.
Right. Oh, I didn't even think of that. So they pick up on that, like when going through customs, like you can't bring that in.
Well, I assume so. If anyone searches my bag and pulls out a jacket, I'll have some questions to answer. But
Yeah.
if I can get away with not having I'll definitely take the 1% off. That should help me get through customs.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess this weekend though, this weekend, Nui Pro live on OVO Play. It's on Saturday afternoon. Yeah, it's a bit earlier than most shows.
Yeah. No, it's still 7:30.
Oh, okay. For some reason, my calendar had it as 4:30. I'm completely wrong, and I apologize. So this weekend we're going live. What can we expect? Who are you working this weekend?
I am fighting one of the prefects.
One of the prefects.
I don't know their names. The blonde one.
You got to watch out for that schoolboy, man.
Yeah, no, I've heard, I've seen a lot of people.
You're at the shows.
Fall victim to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think I've got enough skill to not let him get behind me.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it, though. I'm looking forward to seeing Nui Pro go live. I'm looking forward to much more Nui Pro content because I hear fantastic things. What I've seen has been great. And just from talking to you, I love the philosophy and everything. So I'm a big fan and I'm looking forward to it. Where can people find you? Because you're not really on the social media much. You're on Facebook, I think, yeah?
Yeah, I'm on Insta as well.
Okay,
Charlie Evans used to run it for me, but since she moved over to England, I started doing it myself.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't even realize I had an Instagram, and apparently I had it for a year.
And she was running it for you.
Yeah, Charlie and Jess they'd randomly come up and go, "Yeah, we're gonna get in a picture," and I'm all right, and not knowing that that was for my Instagram that I didn't know about.
Right, you should check because you can monetize Instagram. They might have been making money off your name, man. Those floozies.
Good on them. They deserve it.
Yeah. Awesome. So what's the handle that people can find you on Instagram?
Adam Hoffman 44.
All right,
Just
awesome.
44.
And on Facebook, it's just the name, right? Just Adam Hoffman Pro Wrestler? Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I think it's just Adam Hoffman.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. And best of luck with the live streaming and all that stuff. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Thank you very much. I'll probably see you at a show.
Yeah, I'm coming up for Colosseum, so.
Oh, wonderful. Hopefully I'm in it this year. I was very vocal backstage about my disgust that I wasn't in it, so hopefully they fucking listen to me.
Yeah, hopefully they do. Thanks a lot for coming on, man.
No worries.
All right, so there you have it. Adam Hoffman, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, Mr. Hoffman, sir, for coming on the show and sharing your knowledge and sharing your history, and it was fantastic. I felt like we could have gone for another hour, but at the time of recording the interview, I had to push the interview for technical reasons and all that sort of stuff happening, and then I was getting in trouble. I was getting the text messages constantly from my partner who was, dinner's on the table. I need to go. And so I had to wrap up the recording, but it was a great interview. Thank you so much, Mr. Hoffman, sir, for coming on the podcast. It was brilliant to have you. And looking forward to the show this weekend so much. People need to check out the Newcastle Pro Wrestling podcast. There is a podcast for that, and I'm pretty sure they've done a preview this week. I haven't had a chance to listen to it, or I'm not even sure if it's dropped. I don't know, but I assume they've done a preview. They tend to do previews, so get around the Newcastle Pro Wrestling podcast. If you do like Australian wrestling podcasts, which, let's be honest, you're listening to this one, so probably a good bet that you do. Wrestle Radio Australia this week had Dean Brady stop by the show ahead of his match with Jack Bonza. At RCW, Long Live the King at HQ. He stops by and has a chat about, his whole career, about the match coming up with Jack Bonza. It's very good to listen to. We also have Nick Berry, as I mentioned earlier, on the Turnbuckle. Nick Berry stops by, talks about the whole New Japan show. I'm about halfway through listening to this episode, so I'm not sure what else he talks about, but he talks about the whole New Japan show and also touches on Avery heading to Stardom. Very good listen so far, and I'm very much excited to listen to the rest of it. Robbie Eagles was on the Top Rope podcast with Rose and Gale for Triple M this week ahead of his big weekend with New Japan. So you have to go back and listen to that one as well. But that does it for the podcast this week. But if you want to know what's happening this weekend near you, starting in South Australia, Riot City Wrestling Long Live the King takes place at HQ on Hindley this Friday night. In Victoria, PCW Ignition takes place at the Southeastern Entertainment Centre on Saturday, as it does. In New South Wales, Wrestling Go have a big double-header on Saturday and Sunday. The Ewan Monkley Memorial on Saturday night, and of course on Sunday, Alex Irvine's Big Day Out on Sunday. Both of these shows taking place at the Marion Community Centre, the home of Wrestling Go. And Newcastle Pro Wrestling, as we talked about, is live on OVO Play for anyone around the country who doesn't have a show to go to, which is people in Queensland, is people in South Australia, is people in Western Australia, is people in everywhere except for Victoria and New South Wales. There's no show to go to on Saturday night, so there's no excuse to not be watching OVO Play. OVO Play this weekend from the Central Coast Leagues Club, Newcastle Pro Wrestling. So if you're in the area, get out to the Central Coast Leagues. If you're not in the area, fire up OVO Play. It's $6 for a week, $7 for a week, or $10 for a month. You can catch the PWA shows as well. There is no reason not to be watching live Aussie Grapps on a Saturday night, unless you have a life or something, but you're listening to an Aussie wrestling podcast. And that's what it's about. Going out, supporting the boys, buying a shirt, cheer the good guys, boo the bad guys. You know the drill. If you want to support us, you can do so at patreon.com/theb+. Our call-in shows are so much fun. It's the most fun I have all week is sitting down and doing these call-in shows with the Patreon subscribers. We also do custom content for Patreon subscribers as well, where you get to tell us what you want us to talk about. It can be top fives, it can be old pay-per-view reviews, you can make us watch shitty wrestling movies or shitty movies with wrestlers, whatever you want. You can come up with anything, right? And we will do it. We are your dancing monkeys if you pay us $10 a month. Of course, that's the most expensive tier. There are lower tiers if you just want to support what we do here. And we'd really appreciate it because it does cost money to get these shows up on air. It does cost money to subscribe to all the services so we can see the shows, so we can tell you guys what's happening. These things aren't free. These things aren't cheap. And we love supporting Aussie wrestling. We love getting it out there for the world, of course. But any support that you can give us to help grow this thing, would be really appreciated. So that's patreon.com/theb+. If you want to see me on Twitter, I am at Greg Unchained on Twitter. I am at the Greg Unchained on Instagram. Collectively, we are the B+ Wrestle on Twitter because wrestling wouldn't fit. The B+ Wrestling everywhere else. Like, share, subscribe, 5-star review if you like what we do. And thank you so much for listening.